Hello, welcome back to the world of Ter'Ra'Mentia. Today I want to talk to you about the most asked questions that we got at FanX. We just recently wrapped the event up. It was a ton of fun, we learned a ton of things, and it was great to see people get genuinely excited for the game. We need your help on Kickstarter to get this thing out there, but please make no mistake, we're not stopping. Even if the Kickstarter does not reach its goal, we're pushing forward, especially after the feedback we've received from so many people. We learned one very important lesson at FanX, and that's that we could have just brought the game with us and everyone would have bought it. However, it was so much fun to be there. We made a lot of connections, a lot of stores that are interested in carrying the game, and also just other creators that were really fun to talk to, of both games and authors alike. So let's get into these most asked questions so we can better communicate our game to you. We're working hard to show you what makes our game great. Let's start with the most obvious question first. Why 2d12? Well, almost 3 years ago, honestly, it just seemed fun. And I think the answer still applies now. Yes, it's more consistent. People can make mathematical arguments, but the truth is, it was just fun. It's fun to roll doubles for crits, and it's fun to mess with the mechanics of having 2 die being rolled. Why action points? Well, we're all fans of 5e, especially me. I love the game. But what I don't like is bonus actions and how some classes make use of it and some classes don't make good use of it. We want that efficiency and that action economy to be available to every class. So all of our classes have 2 action points, and when they get to level 6, they all have 3 action points. That's when you drive your GM crazy. How does spellcasting work? Well, just like martial weapons, all spells have an action point cost, and most of the time have a spirit or mana cost attached to them as well. There is no upcasting in our game. Spells increase damage and healing die at levels 5, 10, and 15. And spirit power and willpower are almost always added to the damage and healing die as well, helping your character scale in that regard too. What is the difference between spirit and mana? Generally speaking, there are some cases that can break the norm, but spirit most of the time is used for healing, buffing your party members, and performing martial abilities. Mana, generally speaking, is attached to things that are going to do magical damage, which can be imbuing a weapon or casting a spell. Some classes are hyper-focused on spirit, some are hyper-focused on mana, but most of them make great use of both. We're a big fan of hybrid builds, and there's a lot to be gained from building in that strategy or in that space. Spirit and mana are both affected by life force and mind directly, plus whatever bonuses your class inherently gets. And at certain levels, you get to choose whether or not you get to add more points to your mana or spirit, depending on what your class is and what they do. Which brings us to the next question. What else is life force and mind used for? And the answer is a lot. These 2 core attributes are central to every character. Life force and mind directly affect your spirit and mana pools, which is your resources, and your ability and efficiency to perform spells, abilities, and different actions. They're also used for spirit power and willpower. Your spirit power and willpower has a bonus that is almost always added to damage and healing die or martial abilities that have certain effects. Spirit power and willpower in the 12 plus box also provides a target number for debilitating effects to be resisted. Life force and mind also affect your specializations, whether it's using a short bow or short sword, or something like intuition or arcane awareness. When you're specialized in one of these things, you get to add your bonus main attribute and your bonus from your core attribute and put them together. So you're just a little bit better than somebody that's not specialized. Life force and mind are central to every character and can be some of the most important choices you make throughout your 17 levels of play. Our next question is built around sanity. And what we were asked was, how often will players be challenged on their sanity? And the truth is, it's up to your game master. You can go as heavy or as light as you want, but you definitely don't want to ignore it. It's an important part of the world and can be a ton of fun. There are also classes that use sanity as a main attribute, or classes that can play with sanity counters to help or hurt themselves. So we recommend at session 0 really establishing with your players what kind of campaign it's going to be, as you should probably do in general anyways, right? I personally like a well-balanced campaign that uses just enough sanity to make your players question themselves, but not so much to be overbearing. But hey, if you want to take it to the max all the way, the game can accomplish that, and it's so much fun. So what are epic points? Well, epic points get handed out by your game master to players, and players can spend them to help tell a story when the dice are really failing to do so. Now, we don't mean re-rolling dice. You could, but that could possibly be the lamest use of them I could think of. Let's use an example of a combat that's dragging on. This is one way you could use epic points. Let's say you're 4 rounds deep, there's too many enemies, there's too many players, everyone's scratching their head, and it's just becoming a slog fest. We've all been there. Maybe a couple of players want to get together and say, hey, Game Master, we want to spend our points. We're going to set the dice aside, and we're going to creatively tell you how we think we can end this combat. And then the players get together with the Game Master at their discretion and decide whether or not this is achievable or what the outcome is. It's a great way to encourage collaboration between players and Game Master for telling the story and turn something that was not working out into something epic. Now, there could be other uses for this as well. Potentially you have a bunch of Solar Guardians in full plate armor that are trying to sneak into a castle. Well, maybe they want to spend some epic points to creatively discuss with their Game Master how they think they could accomplish it. And at the end of the day, it's going to be Game Master discretion as to whether or not things can be accomplished. It's definitely there to be collaborative, not there for players to say, well, I spent an epic point and now I can fly. That's not the intended use. Can I learn other weapon and armor specializations outside of character creation? The answer is yes. Some classes pick up extra ones along the way, but it is intended that you can learn other weapons and armor specializations throughout your campaign and that you work with your Game Master on that. If you are specialized in long swords and he hands you the coolest short sword in the world, you're not specialized in it, you can still use it and you're going to be fine with it. But after spending a little bit of time, you get rewarded by learning that specialization as well. And our final question, how do wound counters work? We're a little more deadly than some other games and a little less deadly than others. Early levels are definitely very deadly, as you may not have much health. And it also can depend on your party comp, whether or not you're using a tank and a healer and a DPS, right? If you're all DPS, you probably want a lot of potions. But wound counters, once a player reaches 0 health, they can take 3 wound counters. Every time they receive damage, they receive a wound counter. When all 3 of those are up, that player is dead. Now, if they happen to get brought back to their feet up to, say, 1 HP or higher, and they've taken wound counters, they're going to have debilitating effects that need to be solved. So I hope these important questions that came up time and time again really help get you interested in what we have to offer. A lot of thought went into this, and boy, we just can't tell you how much fun it actually is to play. So we're going to do a better job of getting this out to you and letting you know exactly what's going on in our heads, because you can't read our minds, apparently. Thank you again so much for the support. Again, FanX was amazing. We had a great time, and we'll see you next time in the world of Ter'Ra'Mentia.